It's the matchup presented by DraftKings. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. The PGA Tour rolls on. I like this kind of year, this time of year. It's fun. I love the Travelers Championship. What happened to Bubba Watson? My goodness, down the stretch, +6 in the last 5 holes. Opens the door. In walks in Harris English, back to playing great golf. Gets his 4th win on the year. Always a great tournament out there. But I got to tell you, I like this tournament as well, the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and I really like it now that it's moved to the Detroit Golf Club. I think they're doing a great job with this tournament. The difference this week, though, folks, we're going to be seeing a ton of birdies, and we're going to be seeing some eagles, so we've got to bring in the big hitters to help us with this. He's back, popular man. You see him there. Brandon Guptill, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. It's definitely been a deja vu last 2 weeks for me personally in that realm with Bryson and Bubba both collapsing on back 9 Sunday, but onward we move and definitely a different mindset than the last 2 weeks. I mean, obviously 2 weeks ago, US Open's a super grind, low or high scoring, I guess you would say. And last week, that's about what we thought, 13, 14 under can get it. Here. You're almost looking at, if you're not touching 4 or 5 under a day, you're not getting inside that top 10. So it's going to different mentality of how you attack the course this week.
It's like a little more PGA Tour champions mentality. Like you got to go 4 or 5 under every single day. If you shoot even, you're going to get lapped. Yeah, you look at this course. I think you bring up a good point here. US Open, it's about grinding out those pars. Par is a good score. Hang in there. Avoid the double bogeys. We know that 1, 2, 3 under is going to win it. Last week, TPC River Highlands, it's a sneaky, difficult golf course. 13 under wins it. 12, 13 under wins it seems like every single year. Those holes down the stretch, although they're not very long, seems like they're hitting wedges into them. They play difficult. So you got to make your good pars there. Few more birdies available. And now we come here and it's like, you got to take the floodgates off here. You got to go for it if you plan on winning this tournament, because we're going to be into the 20s, well into the 20s to win this tournament here. Defending champion Bryson DeChambeau, he is in the field. When you watch this tournament this week, guys are going to be hitting more fairways than on average. When you look and compare to other PGA Tour venues, they're going to be hitting more greens. Their scrambling shot seems to be a little bit easier around this course. You're going to be seeing them sending it off the tee, long drives off the tee here, well over 300 yards. Although it is a bit wet in Detroit, they've got some rain coming in, so I think the golf course could play a little bit longer. We'll get into that. But all in all, if you had to define easy on the PGA Tour, I think this would be it. So what kind of golfer, Brandon, are you looking at here? You kind of going more bomber mentality like Bryson, kind of overpowered this course in 2020? Or are you going to go more approach, say like Nate Lashley, who got in a Monday qualifier and blitzed the field, winning by 6 back in 2019? Which way are you going to lean?
And you look at, it's hard when you get only one history. Now you get 2 histories, and the course kind of played what seemed like differently when you break down all the statistics of both those years. So you're kind of like, all right, it's kind of like a prize fight, right? Now we got round 3. Which way do we think it really leans out? Now we got the weather complex into it. I really think last year is probably more likely what we'll see. A lot more guys felt, I can really hit it up there. And this bluegrass is not that hard to hit out of, if I up 30 more yards or 20 more yards, it's better than just sitting back in the fairway. And seeing Wolf and Bryson win it, I mean, first and second, that mentality kind of speaks to that. And even Doc, 2 years ago, I was on him at this tournament. I liked watching him in college a lot, but he's kind of that, scorer's mentality. When he gets hot, like a Cam Davis type, he can get birdies going and going and going. Now there's volatility with those kind of games as well. So really, I'm going to be, I'm going strong off the tee type of deal. I'm not looking much around scramble. If you're scrambling around here, I don't think you're really in the ball game, because you got to score. So it's really going to be about, par 5 scoring. There's a lot of eagles at this course. So that's something I'm going to bring into. And then, I think you got to be strong off the tee here to compete.
Yeah, I agree. You look at the layout here, back to par 72. It's going to be well into the 7,000, probably looking at 7,400 yards. And it could play a little bit longer this year with the amount of rain that you've seen. I know you're getting in Oklahoma. It's stretching all the way over to Detroit. It's going to dry out a little bit Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but it's looking like fairly soft conditions, certainly early in the tournament. Guys are going to get some birdies certainly early when they get off there in the front 9 if they're teeing off. 1 is gettable, 3 is gettable, 4 is gettable, 5 is gettable. You'll see guys 2, 3 under through the first 5 holes. And then, some tough holes, obviously, in the middle there, tough stretch in 16 and 18. Those are 2 difficult par 4s. But the par 5s, to your point, you're going to see a ton of birdies, and you're going to see a lot of eagles here, more so than perhaps any other PGA Tour event. There's 2 in the last 5 holes. Number 14 is the third easiest hole. 40% birdie rate, 2.1% eagle rate, and then 17 par 5. 47% birdie rate, 3% eagle rate. So you're going to see some fireworks on 14 and 17, 15 short par 3. It's a birdie hole. And as I mentioned, 16 and 18 can be tough. So let's get into it. Let's find ourselves someone that can get out there off the tee, someone that is not afraid to go low. And that is a mentality. It's a good point. With players, some guys like to grind. They're really good at grinding over 4 days, saving par. And then the other mentality, it's like, let's put the foot down and let's go and let's score. And that's what you're going to need here this week. Starting with DraftKings here, the top ranked players this week, 2021 Rocket Mortgage. The way we do it, we're going to go through at each level here. Try to touch on every player a little bit, give our thoughts, and then we'll pick our favorite in each category at the end. We'll go down the entire list in the 7,000s, and then we'll actually give you a couple names that we really like each in the 6,000s. And usually we play multiple lineups, of course, as we go through this, but you'll get a good feel of who we're looking at. Bryson DeChambeau, defending champion, kicks it off 11,400. There's Patrick Reed, 10,900. Webb Simpson, where's he at with his game? Is he 100%? 10,600. Hideki Matsuyama, 10,400. And Will Zalatoris, first time here, comes in at 10,000. Well rested. Is there a name in there that you're like, you got to go with this guy here? Or do we just fade all of them and get down into the 9,000? But my goodness, does this golf course absolutely scream Bryson DeChambeau or what?
Yeah, it does. I think it's going to be a game strategy. Is if you're on him, you better make sure you got a lot and be, because I think should be very high owned this week. Yeah. Should be talked up. I mean, you watch as much golf or more than probably anybody. I do, as well as he's done even in the last few weeks, even the collapse and all that. Like, his short game doesn't seem as crisp as when he was peaking. Now it can come back any week. So I'm like, if I'm trying to nitpick the highest price guy and figure out if that's off a little bit, could he struggle here? I don't put a lot of narrative into what our guy, because a lot of these guys last probably tournament before the Open. I'm sure they'll take a week off, and then we got the British Open in 2 weeks. So travel and all that, does that factor in mentality? This isn't a prep course at all for the Open. So if they're here, I assume they're here to play. I'm just going to go. I mean, I'll probably go back to my guy. I've been playing him a ton. He hasn't looked as crisp, but I like Willie Z, especially being the cheapest price here. I love his ball striking. He's a guy that I worry a little bit about. Does he have that go low mentality, or is he more of the grind it out type deal? Loves difficult courses, did well at the Masters, has done well at the US Open time before last. This year he obviously missed a cut, but a little worried about that. But the price savings, I definitely like Willie Z. I can't talk anybody out price, and I think that comes down to, do you want to be overweight on him or not? But my 2 that I'm kind of leaning in this area is Willie Z and then Matsu. I think Matsu may go overlooked a little bit here, and he's got 2 top 21 finishes here. Probably seems like he seems to be his game coming back into form as we head towards the Open after his big break from going back to Japan after the Masters. So I kind of like both those guys.
Yeah, Bryson, when he won here in 2020, he was dominant off the tee, plus 6.7. He actually lost in approach, which you don't see very often, negative 0.5. His around the green, positive 1.1, putting career, big week, plus 7.8. Lashley in 19 was positive 0.7 off the tee. So he didn't obviously overpower it, but approach plus 5.6, similar around the green plus 1.8, and then big plus 9.3 in putting. So we know you have to putt here. You've got to get hot and make a lot of putts. Bryson, I think when you look at his game, I've been saying it now for multiple weeks. It's really just more in the touch, in the approach, controlling the distance, short, mid irons, around the green. That's what's struggling right now. But you say that and you go back and he's like, well, even in approaching around the green when he won here, he wasn't impressive at all. He was just so overpowering off the tee, and he had a great putting week. So the two things that seem to still be tracking nicely right now for Bryson is off the tee and the putter. If he has an approach game at all, he wins by 7 here. That's just the reality. If he just all of a sudden gets that touch and he's hitting the driver as good as he is, and the putter is reasonably well, plus 3 or 4, he's going to, I think, win this thing going away. I can't talk myself off of him. I just look at this golf course, and now it's wet. It's going to play longer. It's just like, my goodness, Bryson with the driver, let's have any kind of sign of hope with the approach game, and he's going to be really good here. Webb, I caught up with his caddy. He's just not 100%. It's tough right now with Webb. I was trying to talk myself into him. It just feels, I don't want to say like a wasted year, but it's just, kind of Webb's just having a hard time right now, getting 100% and being the old Webb Simpson. I tend to agree with you with Hideki. Outside of Bryson, he's probably my number 2 guy, top 21 last year. And I think when you look at Hideki, you're going to get it with the ball striking in the approach game. It's kind of weird saying that, his putting, he can make a lot of putts and go low, but we see Hideki be streaky and can certainly not afraid to put 6, 7 birdies together and go low. So I just can't get off of Bryson. I hate to say it. And I know I'm giving up a lot, but I'm going to give you Bryson, my man. It's just, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I think, when you look at the win equity in the betting market, typically when you see a guy like that, because one thing I think DK didn't do any favors to the strategy side of DraftKings this week is typically when you see a DJ back in the day at 7-1 and the next best at 14-1 or 15-1, like we have with Patrick Reed, the pricing for him would almost be like 12,000, 12-1, where it really forces you to make that decision. With him being 11-4, he's only $500 over Reed, which doesn't match when you look at their splits on the win equity side. It really makes it tough to get off him. And I do think he's just going to be, 30+%, 35%. And that's in the big stuff. A single entry, he may be higher. The worry, it's not worry. If you go on them, you don't want to be like average to the field or anything. You got to load up and just go all in. And I don't hate it this week at all. Do any of these guys, when let's say you're a guy like Bryson and just coming from your background, let's say he just starts off and he's kind of, barely makes the cut on the number on the weekend. Is it with the major 2 weeks away? Does any of that creep in their mind, or they just stay on focus that whole week? That was my only worry. If a guy struggles off the bat and he goes, all right, forget it, let's start. I've heard JT mention it. Hey, we knew we were out, so we started working on his shots for Augusta for round 4 that day. Is that a legit thing, or does that not happen more than often?
I think it's a legit concern. Yeah, I do. I don't think you put it past him. Bryson feels like he's a little more straightforward with his game plan, though, right? It's like, I'm gonna blast my driver out there, and I'm gonna find it, and then, what's my distance from there, and we'll figure it out, right?
Correct.
So Bryson probably, as far as hitting shots, I would guess is probably down that list, of prep for Open Championship. So I'm probably very little concern with him when it comes to that. But I do think I do think that's part of it. Yeah, I do. I think there is a little bit of that, like with a JT, perhaps, maybe even a Dustin Johnson, and those kinds of players. Tiger, I think, admitted that at one point. But we're 2 weeks out too. I think Bryson right now, he's as dominant as he is off the tee. It's very underwhelming outside of that with the iron game and the approach game. And we've seen it better than this. We saw it better than this early in the year, in March, in particular at the Players in Arnold Palmer. So he's got to get back to that. He's got to get back to at least being a decent iron player, approach wedge player, show some touch, control the distance, perhaps with the softer conditions here. He's won here. He knows how to attack this course. It's just like it's going to change at some point, right? It's going to move that way at some point. And I just feel like it's been going on a little too long. I just feel like it's coming here, and I wouldn't be as surprised with a dominant win from DeChambeau. All right, let's move it along here to the 9,000s. And, you know, I'm not going to start every card, as you know, with Bryson. Yeah. But just as my guy here to beat and handicapping this course certainly screams Bryson DeChambeau's skill set. 9,800, I think a guy that is going to be certainly played. Joaquin Niemann. There's Kokrak at 95. Sanjay back at 93. Bubba playing some good golf, albeit the last 6 holes. Where's his head at? 9,200. Matthew Wolff finished second here last year to Bryson. Where's his head at? 9,100. And then Keegan Bradley had a nice stretch, but he's missed the last 2 cuts. He's at 9,000. Take me to a spot there in the 9s.
Yeah, it's hard for me to go off Kokrak. I really like him, you know, tee to green, ball striking, 29th here 2 years ago, and he lost 3.67 on the greens, lost 5.1 short game around the green plus putting that year, and still finished 29th. I think his overall game's a lot stronger. We've seen his putting be probably as good as ever had in his career. So tee to green game, he was fine that week. Missed the cut at the U.S. Open, but I'm not anybody on that week. I'm not really holding that too much against him. Outside of that, coming in here with some of the best form in the entire tour. So, and that price, you know, right there in the middle, not having to go up too much. Was a little surprised actually see Niemann, and I love Niemann. He's one of my favorite players on tour, to be higher than Kokrak. But I like both those guys, but I would start it out with Kokrak being my favorite in this range right out the gate.
Yeah, it's certainly, I think it's a good course for them too, because, you know, if you had to pick the weakness for Kokrak and Niemann, it would be they can get a little clunky around the green, right? And that in that U.S. Open mentality and having to save those pars are probably perhaps not the best bet when it comes to some of these other players. But going low, Niemann finished 5th here in 2019. Kokrak played in 19. He was T29. I think Kokrak, yeah, I certainly think he is the class of this. Niemann, last week, I was taking a little deeper dive here with Niemann. His splits, you know, with his putter, best on bent, which we're on this week. Little POA trivials in there. He's 36 at the Travelers, 31st at the U.S. Open. And, you know, last week, I don't think he hit the ball quite as good as we've seen him hit it. So I think between Niemann and Kokrak, I'll probably lean with Kokrak. I think it's interesting with Bubba and Wolff. We know Wolff was second here last year. Bubba's playing some great golf. He's very confident. He's doing a lot of good things. It's, you know, anytime you see something like that, Gup, where a player comes in, they're leading the tournament, and they go 5 over, 6 over in 5 holes, that's nerves. You know, I mean, that's what that is. I mean, that's nerves. And he hadn't won in 3 years, hasn't been in that situation in a long time. You'd like to see some win equity here for sure at 9,200, but I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't think he's going to win this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and continues, you know, to play well. I probably will come off of him. But with Wolff, he seems to be back. He seems to be a little healthier right now in his state of mind. I think he's an interesting person at 91, Matthew Wolff here, right? And can he come in and recapture that form that we saw last year, finishing second to Bryson?
Yeah, he's a guy I like a lot. I think he'll probably very low owned at this price. The second last year, and then the industry terminology of if you play Bryson, you got to pretty much play Wolff. They always seem to show up in the same places, kind of like Palmer and Rahm, although Palmer to a lesser level, but they do seem to do well at the same courses. And so you'd think if you're talking yourself up on Bryson, you'd want some Wolff. I don't know if I want to play if Wolff starts getting steamed up a lot. I don't know if I'll get there, but I like his upside. And I think at his price, he's not going to be too high owned. As we get down in this field, the only thing negating like a Bryson, you know, people maybe not going there is there's some tough builds this week. Like it's actually a little bit better field than it has been, but it is top heavy. And then you got a lot of, you know, very lesser known or very raw out of college, Corn Ferry, you know, Pack and all them we'll get to in a little bit. But Wolff allows you, if you start 2 in this range and just forget the 10K, you go Kokrak Wolf or Kokrak Bubba, it's like you said, that opens up your builds a lot. So I don't mind doing that at all. And I think you talk yourself into him, and Sung Jae's the hardest dude to figure out in the world right now. I can't tell where his game is at. So I prefer taking a chance on someone that I know is more volatile on Wolf, but I think his upside is he could win this week. And I don't think anybody would be shocked if we got to Sunday and Wolf won it.
Yeah. I think I certainly get the DeChambeau Wolf package, and they show up. I do think Matthew is he's a different person right now than he was last year. I get the feeling, and I don't know this, and I know his coach very well, George Gankis, and we've texted a little bit, but I just get the feeling that Wolf is just in the one step at a time. Let's get the wheels turning here, and let's just kind of get back out and just be a professional golfer again, have some happiness. And, so I feel like Matthew is a very different player right now. I don't think he's the same player as last year. And I'll probably come off of Wolf. I'll probably come off of Watson. And I've came off some JM like 6 months ago. I can't deal with the guy anymore. Like, the dude drives me absolutely nuts. But yeah, I could see myself starting some lineups, certainly leading with Kokrak, throwing Neiman in there, and then, or leading with Kokrak, and even just coming down from there and doing some stuff in the 8,000s and things like that, and getting more guys in that range. All right. So your boy here, sounds like Kokrak's your guy in the nines.
Yeah, he'd be my favorite. And then 2 would be Neiman for me as well. Those are 2 favorites for me right now.
I think so for me too. All right. You take Kokrak. I'll give you Joaquin Neiman. There's Bradley. It's going to be interesting to see where the people are at with him now. 9,000. We've seen some growth out of him, and the putters has like this little bitty pulse, and everybody gets excited, right? And it's like, oh my God, He was 0.8 in the positive in putting. Here comes Keegan Bradley, because we know he can putt, or we know he can strike the ball. T45 last year. Yeah, I'll wait. Let's move down here to the 8,000s as we continue on here. Rocket Mortgage Classic, 8,900. Jason Day finished 72 holes last year, barely. My goodness, he looks like he's in pain out there playing golf with his back. Charlie Hoffman, one of the more consistent and I think better players in this field, never seems to really get the respect. 8,800. Ricky Fowler missed a cut last week. Bit of a surprise, 8,700. Although he's been starting to kind of show some momentum. Didn't play good at all on Friday. Gary Woodland, 86. Kisner showed some life last week, 85. Max Homa, 84. My boy Higo, 83. Mia Agrino, 8,200. Cameron Tringali, 81. Phil Mickelson, 8,000. I mean, in that group, Charlie Hoffman's the best player, isn't he?
Yep, is on mine. Probably will be very talked up and owned to an extent there, but yeah, he's 3rd overall for me in the entire rankings on my initial rankings on the week. I do like Tringali a lot this week. He's done well here, very well on bent and putted well here. But the best overall, just in form and everything coming in, the way he's playing, I think Hoffman, is a legit, he's got some win equity in him at 8,800. And anytime you can get that at the pricing, I have to take it. Could be a little high on, but I don't think I'll care about that. It'll get spread out some, and I'll definitely like Tringali. Those are my two favorite plays out the gate in the 8K range.
I think Max Homa could be a sleeper in this group. You look at, I use fantasynational.com, and I like to build different models and whatnot, and, throw some things around, certainly looking at guys that can make birdies, eagles, that proximity range. There's a lot of things you can do in the program. And at 84, you look at Max Homa, last 36 rounds, getting a little bit of a sample size. He really checks out very well, except for around the green. That's his strength, but very good elsewhere. I think Hoffman's the best player in this group, but I'm really liking Max Homa as well. Now, Griot, to me, also checks out pretty good in this group. It's just, can you get on the right side of Griot? He can be a little bit up and down. It just feels like you can get a 75 and then he turns around, shoots 67 and misses by 1 or something. and the cut here has been -4. So you can't afford those lapses. You've got to keep going each and every week. Yeah, I can certainly see Tringali there and Siwoo at 8,000 for some value, but Homa seems to be my guy. When you look at previous years here, Homa was T42 back in 2019. Kisner, who played very well last week, finished third here. Shorter course. Kisner seems to be in a better state of mind playing courses like TPC River Highlands and places like Detroit. Although it's a little bit longer, I think he knows he can compete here more, say, than a U.S. Open and some of these other bigger ballparks. Ricky Fowler, T12 last year. Are you do you have any hope for Ricky at this point, or do you need to see more?
No, I do. I have hope. This is actually my favorite range of the week. It's the strongest. I think I've had the 8Ks ranked as a cumulative power ranking, maybe all year to date. I have 8 guys inside my top 21 rankings right here. Wow. All 11 are inside my top 50. So this is where I'll probably, you start getting a strategy talk as we get closer to Wednesday night is, definitely, if I want to pepper this range, who do I want to be light up above so I can fit more of these builds in? I mean, I like all these guys: Hoffman, Tringali, Kim, Homa, like you said, Griot, Fowler, Higo. Definitely don't mind you. I lean more to you and some others on the Euro side. I watch the guys, but I can't. It's hard for me to get them to translate from time to time. Sometimes I love them, sometimes not so much. But Dave's probably one that I probably won't play. I'd rather, if I was on him for whatever reason, I'd rather go betting wise. The withdrawal with concerns with him, especially when you're playing daily fantasy sports, it's a serious factor at times. And he didn't look like, all positive coming out of Sunday. So a bad start or something like that, I could see him leaving. And it's hard for me to get on him when he's in that factor, that mindset. So I like those other guys we mentioned up there. And I do think Fowler's, Bent Green's something he plays good on. It's, he's somewhat getting closer. I think the price helps because it may keep some people. If he was like 81 or 7,900 people, 87 people go, well, I'd just rather play Hoffman. I'd rather play some of these other guys that are coming in, a little bit better form. Homa, like you said, save $300. So I don't mind Fowler at all. I think he has a game, if he gets it going, to definitely compete.
Yeah, Hoffman's just so good across the board. His whole game is so good. And I think he could be in the 9,000s with the fact that Keegan Bradley is ahead of Charlie Hoffman makes no sense to me. Like, I don't even understand that. At 9,000 and Hoffman's 88? Like, really? Hoffman has no weaknesses. He's really good in that proximity range of 125 to 150, 150 to 175. His strokes gain on par fives in this field. Last 36 rounds, he's 4th. So he takes advantage of that. Strokes gained ball striking, he's 2nd. He putts for a ton of birdies. He makes a lot of birdies. He makes eagles. It's like the guy is so damn solid. And so for me in the high range, it's no question Hoffman as the pick. Now you start getting into the mid to low. I think this is a good spot for Higo, more so this week than last. I'm obviously kind of a homer for Higo and have been in. He was very good to me at the Palmetto, but I think this is a spot. He's pretty comfy off the tee, 305. I think he's a good iron player and he's a good putter. Struggled a little bit around the greens last week. I think this is a better ballpark for him there. But I'm with you on the Tringali too. T5 2019, T30 2020. He's had a couple bumps here as of late. Was very consistent early in the year. Perhaps this is a place to get back on track. But it's definitely Hoffman up top with, I would say, a little Homa and Higo in the middle, sprinkling in a little Tringali.
Yeah, I agree on the Hoffman deal. I mentioned, I like Tringali, and then I think I'll go. I'll have some Higo. I do like him. I think he's a little lower priced than should be, but I get it because there's not a lot of USA data. And it matches the betting odds. But I do think I'm gonna have some Fowler this week, and I hope he kind of goes a little bit overlooked at that higher price. I like Hoffman, Fowler, and Tringali.
All right, that's that. Let's move on here. We're getting to the 7,000s, and we get into the 7,000s here, the way we're going to do it, I'm going to just start up top there. Start listing them off, and you tell me when to stop. I'll stop it once in a while here as well. 7,900. Brendan Todd, T57 last year. Crickets. 7,900. Doc Redman.
Love Doc. We can start there. He is
second in 2019 behind Nate.
Yeah, and that year, DK wise, he was essentially first in a sense because Lashley wasn't in the field. So it was a very good weekend for the Gups Corner crew there. That was kind of a monumental week to get on him. And I ride him a lot. I love Doc. Yeah. I'll be sometimes too much. I mean, because he'll go through funks and it's ugly. Like his rounds, I tell people, man, some of his roller coaster rounds are crazy. I mean, a lot of birdies and bogeys. It seems like this place. So I mean, 2 years, like you said, a second, then a 21st. Putts well here. That's always been like his, when he has a bad round or a bad week, it's generally not tee to green. I mean, he's pretty consistent tee to green. And at this price, I definitely will take a chance on that. And he makes birdies like crazy. Cam Davis and him are two that remind me of each other. They make a lot of birdies or eagles that I'll certainly, take chances there, and he's going to give himself looks. So I like him a lot this week. I like him in the betting market. I've seen anywhere 50 to 60 to 1. I think that's a good number. He's second at Palmato to your boy that week. I had him that week, so I glad to have. I saw you had Higo, so I was glad to see you lose one. And even though we had to take a second place, but playing some pretty good golf right now.
Yeah,
he went through a funk a few months ago, and now he seems to be coming back around and playing good golf.
Yeah, I mean he's irons check, putter's been good. We're looking at 6 consecutive weeks strokes gained putting in the positive, and it's trending up. His putter, he's definitely on some nice confidence there. He's hitting the ball good with the approach. He can get a little clunky off the tee and lose some strokes there. But yeah, I'm with you. I definitely have Doc circled. Yeah, he was T21. That's right. T21 in 2020 and then second in 19. So he certainly likes his plays. Harold Varner seems to check out pretty good on a lot of boards here. 7,800 T30.
Yeah, he's definitely
he's a guy for me, Gup. I kind of just decided to stay away from him as well. You a Varner guy?
Yeah, I mean, it always, 90% of his stuff comes down to can he putt? I mean, it's just his kryptonite, and it worries you in an event like this where you got to make birdies. Now he's a lot of times going to have a lot of those scoring opportunities inside 18 feet and 12 feet more than others. I mean, any kind of tee to green statistical model, whether you're using Fantasy National, Moose is a good friend of mine and love him, or using our PGA Research Center he's always going to seem to pop up in that top 10 or 15 when you're eliminating the putting stats to look at that deal. So it can never talk me off of him. I do like it where he doesn't have to go out there and shoot 3 to 4 or 5 under every single week. Every single round. So it gets me a little bit worrisome off of him. There's a couple other guys I like. I'm indifferent on him. I'm not a full off of him, and I'm not full on him yet.
Yeah, I just usually move on past Lucas Glover, T21. Lucas had a little stretch there early in the year. Seemed like things were coming together. I feel like Lucas is kind of going the other way a little bit right now. Snedeker is always tough one to wrap your arms around. 77. He was T5 here in 2019. Maverick, these next two guys, I like McNeely and Straka. I think these are two guys at 77 that I'll be playing. McNeely played here last year, T8. Straka has 2 starts here at Detroit, and he's finished in the top 11 both times. So Sepp likes this place, and at 77, he'll be filling in some of my rosters for sure, as will the Stanford Cardinal Maverick McNeely. What do you think?
Definitely love Sepp. He was on my little mini list here to mention for sure. Could see him get talked up a little bit this week, but I don't mind that. I like him a lot. Like you said, good history here so far, 2 years. You got him and a Doc in your lineup at your next 4 spots open up a lot of salary. So I don't mind that at all. Mav, I struggle with him. I never seem to get him. It's so much. Last year he gained 6.5 on the greens and 1.8 around the greens. So his tee to green game was almost just even. So a lot of short game last year. So I downgraded that a little bit, but I'm not always off of that because he has been playing decent. 30th last week at the Travelers. I just feel like sometimes if he's a guy that's especially somewhat talked up, if I'm picking and choosing and it's a strong short game that's carried him, sometimes I move off that, but I don't hate it, but I definitely love Straka this week.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's well put. I think Straka is definitely the guy of those two. Reeve at 76. I don't think this rain's going to help Reeve.
No.
As far as what he wants to see in this golf course. Noren, 76, missed the cut last year. Stanley missed the cut last year, T21 in 2019. There's Kramer Hickok, 7,600. Missed the cut both years. Had his chance to get that win, and man, he threw everything at Harris. Should have won. I can't believe one of those two putts didn't fall.
Oh yeah,
in the playoff. It was like there was a lid on the hole. Lantos kind of cooled off a little from what we've seen after winning the Houston. He was climbing. He seems to be, I don't know, is the firepower there at 7,500, finished 21st last year. I think Hadwin and Armour will get some play, right? At 75, they both finished 4th last year. Ryan Armour seems to do very well. You start running the splits of Donald Ross designs. He seems to fare very well at these kinds of venues that Mr. Ross has put together.
Yeah, and he doesn't mind, being able to go low, even though he's not, he's one of those names that always seems to sneak up there. Even when we're projecting, a bomber off the tee type deal, he seems to get there, because he does everything else so well. And he's not, horrible off the tee by any means, but he's a guy that can always sneak up there. And, when you're in this price range, we're not talking about, they have to win to return value. So it's a little bit different because we've had guys here that have finished top 5.
Yep.
Wes Roach, Hadwin, like you said, Armour, that aren't just, Potter. He's not, long off the tee by any means. Brian Stewart. So these kind of guys that could give us top 10 type equity, they may do other things so well that you go after them. I like Armour. Definitely will have some of him. Hadwin, I didn't have as high up there, but still very solid play in my rankings. So I don't mind him as either, especially some of the other guys. I'm with you on Reeve, and those guys don't pop for me at all. Glanto, I don't have Glanto at all.
Armour seems to, he's going to hold his own when it comes to his putter for sure. His opportunities, he's going to be looking for a lot of birdies. He's a guy that I think kind of checks the boxes in the approach game when it comes to that 125 to 150, 150 to 175, which I think we'll see a lot of. He kind of holds his own with the eagle percentage. So yeah, Armour, and again, I think he likes this venue a lot. He likes Donald Ross. If he doesn't, he should know that he plays those courses extremely well. I think I like a little bit of Armour in there. Perez 75, Willett 74. He played good here last year. I don't know. EVR 74.
Never get him right. I never get
Kirk 74. His stock's kind of chilled out, hadn't a little bit. Chris Kirk gonna go low. Win.
No, I just got others right around there that I like so much more.
Because Zaire hasn't played good here at 74. Missed the cut twice. Matt Jones has missed the cut twice at 7,300.
Which was surprising on Kazire because he's such a good putter. In
Bermuda.
Lost putting. Yeah. Well, yeah. Lost putting in 2020. I don't think many, the course history guys will certainly see that, but he's at least on my radar right now. But
Kazire.
Kazire a little bit. He's playing good. And we know the putter can get hot, even though, maybe not as much on bent, but he still has a good splits on bent, just not as much. But I just worry about his form. He's missed a cut last 3 tournaments, 3 straight missed cuts. So I kind of put him to the side for now to wonder where he's at there.
Luke List, he's got the power, T21. Munoz, he'll pop once in a while, 73. I like this next guy. I like Hubbard at 73. I think Hubbard will get some play for sure. He finished 12th here last year, as did Tom Lewis, who's right under him at 72. Hubbard, he'll give you the putter, and again, he'll give you that proximity with those wedges and nines, make some eagles.
Yeah, Lewis was
birdies,
12th.
I could see Hubbard repeating here and get inside the top 20 as well.
Yeah, Lewis was on my short list as well. He's 12, like you said, 12th with Hubbard here last year, 24th on my statistical model on the week, 47th last week. So a little bit, of decent playing there. Missed cut up Helmato, but I think Hubbard will he's a name that can get talked up pretty. Like I can see Tom Lewis being way less talked about than Hubbard. So if they're pretty close for me on those two, but I like Hubbard's form coming in. You mentioned it, at 42nd, a 57th, a 13th. None of those pop, but $7,300 guy, 3 straight made cuts, a top 12 here last year. I think you got to think about that.
Yeah, I'm looking a little closer here at Lewis. I think they're which way you could go there. I could be talked into either one of those. I'll definitely be bringing both of them into play, Lewis and Hubbard. Lewis very good in that proximity, wedges, nines. Probably going to give you a little bit more off the tee as well. Is Lewis
sneaky off the tee? Like I have him top 10% of the field, off the tee, which didn't scream that when I think of him, but yeah,
it's a good point. I think Lewis is one that definitely deserves a look. Hubbard and Lewis 73, 72, Davis 72.
Always like some Davis on.
Love Davis.
Tracks. Yeah, I'll play him a lot, and I'll play him a lot in showdown a lot more than I do full at times because he can score.
Mm-hmm.
He can have 6 birdies and 2 doubles in showdown. The daily deal is a lot more advantageous to that scoring, so I like him there. Full long, definitely can be a little cautious with him. He's kind of like Varner in a way on stats. He's always up there in that top 10 or 20 when you're looking at everything but the green, and then it comes down to can he putt? Is it going to be a good week putting for him? And hasn't had that so far the last 2 years here.
Kinsey Hughes in the field, T21 in 2019. Lebiota keep it going. Missed a cut the last 2 years. We saw him T5 right last week, and you were on.
He was, had him. He was my one of my favorite 6K plays of the whole week. Released him, and I had him at 200-1 and 30-1 top 5. So that was a good kind of helped the betting week for sure. Looked good, and then he shot 5 under on the front I think yesterday, and then immediately went like bogey or bogey double, and kind of thought the wind was out of his sail, but then finished back again strong. I think 2 birdies coming in to get to 10 under. At the time, I didn't think that was even going to be remotely close, just based on how everybody was playing. But it seemed like everybody hit a wall there in the afternoon, and like you mentioned, and English gets in on the 13, and then Hickok ties him, but. No, he looked great. He's playing great. He is a guy that can make birdies and get on a roll.
Yeah.
And not much of a price bump this week. I like him. There's several guys you're about to get to that I like. That's why I hadn't said a lot up above so far. I'm saving, and all these guys are coin flip to me. So I'll take some more Hank again this week.
Yeah, me too. He was a guy that we talked about last week a lot with Kenny, and finished 5th, and then I think he's going to continue to go here, even though he's missed the cut the last 2 weeks. I think we're seeing the best version of Hank Lebiota right now. Putting good, approach game's been solid. Can he maybe do a little bit more off the tee, perhaps?
He lost
gives
6
it in the short game. Yeah, I like Lebiota here. And Russell, I feel like Russell was coming a little bit there, and now I feel like he's kind of fallen back there at 72. Stallings 71. Charles Howell III, 71.
I like Charles this week.
Okay.
He's one that I have feel like his game, I know it's hard to say improving at his age and what he's doing, but he's shown some positives over the last 2 months. A 35th here 2 years ago. At his price, he's just I know you don't see him a lot as like a birdie machine, but he's 3rd off the tee in my model this week, 23rd in par 5 scoring. So some of these things I'm looking at, he's not horrible at that price. If he makes a cut and potentially has that top 20 upside, I don't mind taking a peek at him.
It's funny. It's always funny with Charles Howell, like in my industry, with instruction and whatnot, everybody just drools over his swing, and this and that. He hits a lot of cool knockdown shots, and his approach game is like it's not that great. Right. He's not he's not a good iron player in PGA Tour standard by any stretch. You know, he's off the tee, yes, but I mean, he's lost strokes and approach the last 5 weeks with his iron game and his wedges and like -4, -3. Yeah, geez, it's like doesn't add up when you watch him swing the club. He's like one of those guys that you walk by and you're like, man, I got to stop and watch this for a second, you know? And, but yet interesting here. I think, could he, 7,100, like you said, T35 back in 19. Putnam made a run last week. Showed up there late, 7,100, missed the cut, as did KH Lee.
Yeah.
Made a run last week at 7,100. And Troy Merritt was up there at 7,100. He finished 8th here last year, and Troy Merritt seems to be showing up everywhere. I mean, Troy Merritt's playing some good golf. The Boise State Bronco. You want any part of him?
Yeah, he's kind of right. Him and Lewis are right there together on my list. I don't mind him. 3 straight made cuts for him as well. Top 10, 15% in the field on bent, you know, in the way that I pull it. So I have no issues with him at all. I expect him to kind of get talked up a little bit, but these kind of guys are going to get so spread out. I'm not too worried about the ownership when it comes down to there. You know, I like the form coming in. So, you know, and that he's played here, I know he missed a cut 2 years ago, but coming back with an 8th, I like him.
Yeah, I do too. I like Merritt. I think he's playing good golf right now. Troy Merritt is coming in here. He likes his place. I think Troy Merritt definitely going to be played at 71. Bo Hostler actually showed some life last week at 7,000 as we're getting closer here. He's missed the cut the last 2 weeks. I don't think Gim can make enough putts, can he, at 7,000? But I'm telling you, because I love me some Doug Gim too, is that he's got his new putting coach who I had on the podcast a few weeks ago. I don't know if you listened to it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I remember you talking about it. Yeah.
I mean, it was just like the guy was so good. I don't know him that well, but he was just terrific coming out of Torrey Pines and telling stories about Phil and, you know, Xander's putting and the whole bit. And then he told me right at the end, he just slipped it in. He's like, hey, I'm working with Gim now too. I'm like, huh? You're working with Gim on his putting?
Right.
This is awesome, right? Gim's coming. So I played Gim a little bit last week, but hopefully we're going to see some of the putter turning around because we know he can hit it. Garnett has had, you know, he was like the up and down king late Sunday. He was making crazy pars down the stretch. Garnett he'll get a little action here at 7,000, won't he?
Yes. Oh, yep. I'll have some of him for sure.
Yeah, Garnett's going to get some play.
Strong on the putter, and that sometimes can get people off of him, but he's still playing, you know, good tee to green. It was a heavy putter last week, but even going back over the last 24 rounds, like you know, at 7,000, he's definitely playing enough. And sometimes you just ride that heater. Like he's got, like you mentioned, he's got good mentality coming in. You know, make a little run for him, especially those kind of guys are grinding on that FedEx. You know, they want to get inside and get as high up on that 125 as they can get. You know, and this is a good tournament to do that at.
Does Damon interest you at all? 7,000, Joel?
You know, he does a little bit. For me, I like him a lot. I've supported his cause, him beating cancer and all that. He's a hard guy for me to figure out. Like, I feel like I hit him on the outright at, was it Putakana?
Yeah, Putakana.
Yeah. So and he didn't have no form coming into there. That was just more of I looked at the field and I was just kind of like, I mean, he should be able to play pretty well. So the pricing at 7,000 even had me like, well, he had a 32nd at Memorial, hadn't really played, which was surprising. I didn't know why. He's one of those I'd make a note on. Like, I get he probably didn't qualify for the U.S. Open, but he didn't play Palmetto or Travelers. Was a little, you know, maybe it's just this break for him. But I don't hate him in general at all, you know, especially at that price, because he's a guy that can show up and be top 30 for sure and contending. So I don't mind him at all.
I like Joel this week at 7,000. Joel can go low. He can make a lot of birdies. You know, he's a guy he'll fill it up. Like he makes one, he can make 6 kind of thing.
He's continuously on my first round leader card, especially if he goes off early in the mornings. Cause like you said, yeah, he can get out to 6, 7 under and hurry.
I like Joel a lot this week. In fact, I might play golf with him here in a couple of weeks. We're heading back up there. Where I went to college is where he grew up. So when I was there, he was, you know, like a 2-year-old.
Right.
We know each other, and his caddy is his good friend. One of his best friends back home is one of my really good friends. So we're going to be up there, and I'm going to probably take a trip down there. And if he's in town, we're going to tee it up. So that'll be fun. But yeah, I like Joel this week at 7,000. Cabrera Bello is at 7. Brian Stewart's at 7. Stewart's played good here. 2 top 30s, including a top 5. Gosh, there's Lashley right under him as we get to the 6,000s. But I think of Damon, Bello, Stewart. I think Damon and even Garnett there in the 7s are probably my 2.
Yeah, I would say those 2 for sure. But I do like Stewart. He'd be number 3. I don't mind playing him here. And
Stewart, yeah,
so, yeah, especially with the history. So I don't mind that at all. And 30th last week at the Travelers. So a lot of these guys I do like. And if you are going heavy Bryson, or even you're going to be having to get down here and pick out some of these 771.
Notice I've said I've liked a lot of these guys.
Yeah. So
because you can see that there'll be the Damons of the world, the Garnetts of the world, the Troy Merritt. I'm going to need those guys, right? I'm going to need those guys with the Bryson heavy lineups for sure. Let me ask this. I'm looking at some of the models that I've put together here. Do you like that proximity range, 125 to 150, 150 to 175? I mean, it seems like we're going to be seeing a pretty good chunk of that this week.
Yeah, I guess the one thing that I normally just bring in on a week like this, the general approach proximity type stuff until I listen a little bit, because you can look at the historic ones, but if this is playing way not as much rollout, or it's going to be super sloppy. The best I can do, I don't have as many contacts as you, is a few caddies I've gotten to know. I actually know Joel's as well a little bit, met him at a couple of the tournaments. Besides that, listening to the pressers to hear, it's just not rolling out like it has last 2 years. Going to have a little bit longer, that kind of stuff to differentiate yourself. If you think most people are going to be just looking at historical data, maybe they're like, well, it's going to be 25 yards longer or a club and a half longer. But doing 2 ranges is, like you said, 125 to 175 and breaking them out, I think is perfectly fine this week. I don't think it's going to be too hard, but that's one thing I'll do Monday night, tonight, and tomorrow is look at what was the course set up like in my notes from the last 2 years, firm and fast, hot, whatever. And if it was, and this is completely different, then it's some anecdotal stuff there, but it could be a little bit different playing course this week.
Certainly got to look at birdies, right? I mean, that's got to be in there. Who's who's the guy that's going to be making birdies? Even a little bit of some eagles. I think it's worth taking a look at. But it's, putting is so hard, right? Like you can have a guy that struggles putting, but then just breaks out and careers it, right, that week. And sometimes you're hoping for that. And then sometimes you're kind of banking on just the consistency of the putter. But nonetheless, the one thing that has played out here in the last 2 years is big putting weeks for both Bryson and Nate. Now, Bryson overpowered it off the tee, and Nate did it a little more with the approach, but they both had huge putting weeks. So we know that the plus 6, 7, 8, whatever, maybe 9, like Lashley did it when he ran away with it, is going to be needed. But it certainly feels like it's leaning more towards some distance here. Especially with the wet conditions as we're seeing in Detroit. All right, let's finish it up. 6,000s. I'm going to have a guy or 2 here. Let's give them each 2 picks. You go first. Give me one there in the 6.
My first one and favorite one right now is Adam Schenk. I like him, $6,500, 5th in my statistical model, a 30th and a 42nd here, which, for his price, that's great. Make the cut and get me, value at the $6,500 mark. A 68th out of Palmado, which isn't great, but still another made cut. A miscut last week, but wasn't horrible all the way across the board. And the things I'm looking at, he rates out well. He's top 25 or better in 4 of my 6 major stats I'm looking at. So I feel like it's a great value this week, and I like Schenk a lot this week.
Yeah, Schenk, he's a guy that's circled on my list as well. Are we back on this Norlander? Like, is he coming back now and playing some good golf? Or are we?
He was one of my. I picked 4 because in case we had some crossover, and he's one of the 4 I did have on the list.
Man, Norlander's a trip. He's at 6,800. I'll give you Norlander. He finished 12th here last year. I mean, he just was a wreck in March and April.
Oh yeah.
Into May. I mean, God, he's just awful. I mean, awful golf. And then, all right, 50 at the Schwab, 25th at Palmetto, makes the cut at the Traveler, 60. All right. So approach game starting to perk back up a little bit. Hasn't done much with the putter. I'm just looking here, but Norlander's a guy as you go back, like all of a sudden +8 putting at Memorial, +7 putting at Sanderson Farms. Plus, that's like he throws that in. He throws that in with that ball striking, and off we go. Now we need him to make the cut. I'll give you Norlander at 68. I think I feel good with that, with this field and this golf course. I'll give up even a little bit of the splits on Bent. Not the best, but I think he's definitely going the right way. I think he at least makes the cut.
He was tremendous with his irons here back, in 2020 last year. Gained 8.3 approach. So he lost 4.5 short game. So definitely, and we know a short game can get hot. So that blend of does it all come together in 1 week? That when you're down this pricing, you're never going to see a guy that looks awesome, or he wouldn't be down there 60
right
6,000. So you got to pick and choose your battles, and so I don't mind that play at all.
What else you got?
Danny Lee. I always keep going back to him, and I'm thinking 1 week he's finally going to put it all together. He did well at Palmetto for me, 19th. But very risky. He can miss the cut very easy, or he can be right there in contention. A 21st here 2 years ago in 2019, while losing 4 strokes combined around the green and putting. That's kind of his weakness. At times, tee to green was great that week. And even though when you go back and look at the cuts that he's missed, he's been right there at times. It's not like he's playing horrendous. He may miss it by on the number or 1 or 2, and that stuff does matter to me. I think it's a bigger difference, and I missed it by, especially if you look back at a Palmetto or something like that, and the cut was, or Byron Nelson in Texas, cut was -6. If a guy shot 5 under through 2 days, that's not horrible golf. It was just a tough cut to make. So I like his overall game. I know if you guys that know him down in DFW, that's where he hangs out. 6,700. He's a guy that I just like his upside. So he's my second pick of this range, is Danny Lee.
Some other names for people to look at. I'm just kind of going through the finishes here. Hagee was 6,200. We know he's got length. He's T39. Austin Cook, T39. Ventura, Christopher Ventura, Oklahoma State kid. He was T21 here. Last year. I think Ventura is an interesting name. I think Ted Potter Jr. is an interesting name. It's kind of just screams Ted Potter Jr. This golf course. He was T5 back in 2019. He can get it going. He's streaky. As we work up here, Tyler Duncan, I think is interesting, 6,400. But I think I'll give you JJ. I'll give you JB Holmes. And JB Holmes, 65. Like JB Holmes, guy that's won multiple times on the PGA Tour. I think JB's starting to show a little bit of sign here. I think, we know he's got some length. I think his putter's starting to heat up a little bit. I need him to make the cut, make some noise. I'll give it JB at 6,500.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to say his name. Certainly a catch off guard deal, but I definitely don't hate. We know when he gets hot, I mean,
yeah,
he can get. This also isn't a week. My final in this range, and the way this field strength is, which is one of the weaker, quote unquote weaker. These are all still pros, though. I sometimes don't like that word, but that you'll have. This isn't a bad week, and this is what I did 2 years ago with Doc. Very much unknown at a Clemson. You got Davis Thompson, John Pack, and Eckrott at Oklahoma State. All three of those guys could show up and play well. And I'm talking a very small MME type flyer play. Is it in a bad week to take those unknowns that the majority of people, non-industry, that they don't even know who those guys are, and they're not going to show up on much because they just all came out of college. So those are three that, some sprinkles of I definitely don't hate.
Yeah, I sprinkled Eckrott last week. I talked him up. I on the other show, I thought Eckrott would make the cut, and he's another one, on my list. I'll definitely sprinkle him in, knowing him and his game.
He just thought
yeah, he is. Can he go out here and go low? We'll see.
Yep.
So I think that's
he made the cut last week. So, I mean, at his price last week, that's great. Top 47. That works.
Yeah, I was on Eckrott last week, and he's a we'll see. Well, this will be it's a different kind of golf course this week if he can go out there and go 6-7 low kind of thing. I definitely like him more last week than I did this week. And gosh, you look at how far Cameron Champa's fallen. Jeez, 6,700. I mean, he finished 12th here last year. I mean, Champ's game is a bit of a mess. I don't think I can. I mean, I know he got the upside. I don't think I can do that. And I think Vaughn Taylor is probably my other one at 66. I would feels like a Vaughn Taylor kind of place to me. He would probably be my other one that I would sprinkle in there. I think JB, yeah, he can get it going. I think his putter's starting to heat up here a little bit. He's streaky. He hasn't been driving the ball as well. So let's get a little bit more out of the driver. He's long. It's gonna be wet. Let's keep the putter going. Get that birdie run going and make the cut. All right, there you have it. Rocket Mortgage. I gotta tell you, man, this show we've been on it, and good picks, breaking it down, filtering through who we like, who we don't like. Hopefully, you're making some money out there. That's the Gup. Gup, tell them where they can find you in your podcast, which is great.
Yeah, gupscorner.com or just Gups Corner Podcast Network. All of our shows are on there. Football will be right around the corner. We have college football, NFL covered as well. So that'll be exciting once we get to the fall. But definitely, I do at least 3 shows a week, podcasts as well for PGA. So, come check us out anytime.
All right, buddy. You're the best. There we go. Rocket Mortgage. Best of luck. We'll do it again soon.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, man.